The High Council chamber of Vorthak Prime buzzed with nervous energy. Well, buzzed might be the wrong word since half the species present communicated through bioluminescent patterns, and the other half preferred telepathic whispers. But you get the idea. Ambassador Krell-9 tapped his 4 claws against the obsidian table, each tap echoing through the vast dome like a death knell. His purple scales shifted from deep violet to alarmed crimson as he reviewed the holographic reports floating before him. "So," he began, his voice carrying the weight of someone who'd rather be anywhere else in the galaxy, "let me get this straight." The sarcasm dripped from his words like toxic honey. "We, the mighty Galactic Council, representing 47 advanced civilizations, got our collective rear ends handed to us by a species that still uses fossil fuels." The silence that followed could have powered a small moon. General Thax Prime, a towering insectoid whose compound eyes reflected the room's ambient light like disco balls, clicked his mandibles nervously. "Well, Ambassador, when you put it like that—" "How else should I put it, General?" Krell-9's tail swished dangerously. "Perhaps I should sugarcoat the fact that our unstoppable armada was sent running with their tails between their legs by a bunch of bipedal mammals who consider pizza a food group. High Priestess Yana Vel, whose ethereal form seemed to phase in and out of reality, materialized more solidly in her seat. Her voice carried the melodic quality of wind chimes in a tornado. The humans displayed unexpected tactical prowess. "Unexpected?" Krell-9 laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "They turned our own technology against us. They hacked into our quantum-encrypted systems using what they called old-school methods. I'm still trying to figure out what a rubber duck has to do with debugging code." The holographic display shifted, showing scenes from the recent invasion attempt. What was supposed to be a simple subjugation of a primitive world had turned into the most embarrassing military defeat in Council history. Commander Brix 77, a slug-like being whose slime trail glowed with nervous bioluminescence, oozed closer to the display. "Sir, if I may." He paused as several gaseous bubbles escaped his speaking orifice. "The humans' defensive capabilities were grossly underestimated by our intelligence division." "Intelligence division?" Krell-9 threw his hands up in exasperation. "What intelligence?" "They told us these humans were barely out of their technological diapers. They said the biggest threat would be their atomic weapons, cute little fusion toys that couldn't scratch our shields." The display zoomed in on a particular battle sequence. Earth's blue-green sphere hung in space, seemingly defenseless against the massive fleet of Council ships. Dark, angular vessels descended through the atmosphere like harbingers of doom, their energy weapons charging with ominous hums. Then everything went sideways. "Look at this!" Krell-9 pointed at the hologram with one claw. "Wave 1. 12 dreadnoughts, each capable of glassing a continent. They were supposed to demonstrate our power, maybe vaporize a few of their military installations. Simple intimidation tactics." The image showed the lead dreadnought, the pride of Zentori, beginning its descent over what humans called North America. Its massive particle cannon powered up, targeting what appeared to be a military complex. "And then?" General Thax Prime asked, though he already knew the answer. "And then the humans did something no civilized species has ever attempted." Krell-9's voice dropped to an amazed whisper. "They rammed a nuclear-powered submarine into a spaceship." The hologram replayed the moment in slow motion. From beneath the ocean's surface, a metallic leviathan burst forth, water cascading from its hull like liquid diamonds. The submarine, impossibly, had been modified with what appeared to be rocket boosters and reinforced plating. The USS Defiance, Commander Brix 77 read from his datapad, slime quivering with each word. A nuclear submarine retrofitted with experimental propulsion systems in approximately 48 hours. 48 hours! Krell-9's scales shifted to an incredulous orange. It takes our engineers 48 cycles just to file the paperwork for modification requests. The submarine collided with the Pride of Centauri in a spectacular explosion that lit up the sky. The dreadnought, designed to withstand stellar radiation and quantum torpedo barrages, crumpled like cheap foil around the crude human vessel. High Priestess Yana Vel's form flickered with what might have been amusement. The human captain, I believe his name was Morrison, broadcast a message during the collision. "Play it," Krell-9 commanded. The chamber filled with a distinctly human voice, gravelly and defiant. "Tell your friends we've got plenty more where that came from. Oh, and next time? Call ahead. We'll put on a better show." The explosion that followed vaporized both ships, but the psychological impact rippled through the entire invasion fleet. Suddenly, the primitive planet below didn't seem quite so helpless. General Thax Prime's antennae twitched nervously. The second wave fared no better. The humans had somehow weaponized their— what did they call them? "Garbage trucks," Commander Brix 77 supplied helpfully. "Right, garbage trucks. Modified with chemical thrusters and filled with what our sensors identified as expired dairy products and kitchen waste." The hologram shifted to show dozens of Earth's sanitation vehicles, painted in garish colors and bristling with improvised weaponry, launching themselves into space on pillars of flame. They moved in coordinated swarms, like mechanical insects defending their hive. "The smell alone disabled 3 cruisers," General Thax Prime continued. "Our atmospheric recycling systems couldn't process the organic compounds. Half the crew of the Stellar Vengeance required medical evacuation for acute olfactory trauma." Krell-9 buried his face in his hands. "We were defeated by rotten milk and banana peels. Our ancestors are probably spinning in their cryogenic pods. But the humans weren't done. Oh no, they were just getting started." The third wave encountered what Earth's defenders had dubbed the Flying Circus. Military aircraft, civilian planes, and what appeared to be crop dusters had been hastily modified with everything from fireworks to construction tools. They swarmed the council ships like angry hornets, attacking with a chaotic fervor that confounded every tactical algorithm. "Their strategy made no sense," General Thax Prime clicked in frustration. "No formation discipline, no coordinated battle plans. They just attacked, from every direction at once, like they were making it up as they went along." "Because they were making it up as they went along," Krell-9 roared. "These humans don't follow the galactic warfare protocols. They don't read the manual. They just see giant alien ships and think, you know what? Let's throw everything we've got at them and see what sticks." The holographic display showed the chaos of that battle. Human aircraft performing impossible maneuvers, weaving between energy blasts with reckless abandon. A formation of what appeared to be stunt planes spelled out crude messages in the vacuum of space using colored exhaust trails. "What did those messages say?" High Priestess Yana Vel asked, her form solidifying with curiosity. Commander Brix 77 consulted his notes, bubbles of embarrassment rising from his speaking orifice. The printable ones included, "Go home, not today," and "Your mom." The rest— he trailed off, his bioluminescence dimming to a mortified brown. "And then came Wave 4, Krell-9 continued, his voice taking on the tone of someone recounting a particularly vivid nightmare. Our elite strike force, the Phantom Squadron, invisible to all known scanning methods, equipped with the latest quantum phase technology. The pride and joy of the Council's military, 12 stealth ships that could slip through enemy defenses like whispers in the void. They had never failed a mission, never even been detected by enemy sensors. The humans spotted them immediately, General Thax Prime admitted, his compound eyes dimming with shame. How? Yana Vel materialized fully, her curiosity overriding her ethereal nature. Weather radar, Commander Brix 77 supplied. Apparently, our quantum phase technology creates minor atmospheric disturbances. The humans have been tracking weather patterns for centuries. They noticed 12 invisible storms moving in perfect formation. Krell-9 laughed hysterically. Weather radar! Technology older than their grandparents. We spent 3 centuries developing invisible warships, and they spotted them with equipment used to predict rain. The humans' response had been typically human. Instead of conventional weapons, they had launched what their military called Operation Snowball Fight. Explain that to me one more time, Krell-9 demanded, though he'd heard the report dozens of times already. General Thax Prime's antennae drooped with defeat. They loaded cargo aircraft with bags of flour, confetti, paint, and glitter. Then they flew directly at our stealth ships and dropped it on them. The invisible ships became very visible very quickly, Commander Brix 77 added, covered in rainbow colors and sparkling like festival decorations. The hologram showed the Phantom Squadron, once the terror of 3 star systems, now looking like they'd crashed a children's birthday party. The deadly stealth fighters bobbed through space trailing clouds of flour and glitter, their crews presumably wondering how their careers had taken such an absurd turn. But that wasn't the worst part, General Thax Prime continued. The humans then began broadcasting children's party music at them. Children's party music. Yana Vel's voice carried a note of horrified fascination. Something called The Wheels on the Bus and Baby Shark. Commander Brix 77 read from his report. Played on repeat through emergency frequencies. Our pilots requested permission to surrender just to make it stop. Krell-9 stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor with a sound like nails on a blackboard. Do you understand what this means? He began pacing, his claws clicking against the polished stone. We are no longer the apex predators of this galaxy. We've been outmaneuvered, outfought, and outcrazied by a species that considers putting pineapple on pizza a legitimate food choice. The silence stretched on like a funeral dirge. Finally, High Priestess Yana Vel spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. What about the final wave? Ah, yes, the final wave. The coup de grace. The moment when the Galactic Council's military reputation didn't just die, but was dragged behind a trash compactor and set on fire. The final wave, Krell-9's voice cracked slightly, consisted of our flagship, the Eternal Dominion. 50 kilometers of advanced technology, housing the most powerful weapons in known space. It was supposed to end the conflict with one decisive strike. The hologram expanded to show the massive vessel, a geometric monument to Council engineering prowess. Its hull gleamed with energy shields, its weapon ports bristled with enough firepower to crack a moon, and its sensor arrays could track a single proton across solar systems. The humans' response? General Thax Prime asked, though his tone suggested he really didn't want to know. Krell-9's laugh was equal parts admiration and hysteria. They flew a single ship at us, one tiny, insignificant craft that shouldn't have been able to scratch our paint job. The display zoomed in on Earth's final defender. It was, well, calling it a ship was generous. It looked like someone had taken a standard atmospheric fighter, duct-taped some rocket engines to it, and covered the whole thing in what appeared to be aluminum foil and Christmas lights. The pilot identified himself as Captain Jake Martinez. Commander Brix 77 read, age 26, former pizza delivery driver, enlisted in Earth's Defense Force approximately 6 hours prior to launch. A pizza delivery driver, Krell-9 repeated slowly. A pizza delivery driver defeated our flagship. How? Yanavel asked, though her form was beginning to flicker again, as if she wasn't sure she wanted to hear the answer. He asked to surrender, General Thax Prime replied. What? Captain Martinez opened a communication channel and requested permission to surrender. He claimed his ship was malfunctioning and asked if he could come aboard to negotiate Earth's capitulation. The Council members exchanged glances. Standard galactic warfare protocols clearly stated that surrender offers must be considered, especially from obviously outmatched opponents. It was a matter of civilized conduct. And then? Krell-9 prompted. Then he docked with our ship, walked onto our bridge, and… General Thax Prime paused. And what? And arrested us. The silence that followed was so complete that you could have heard a pin drop in the next solar system. Arrested? Yanavel's voice climbed several octaves. For trespassing, unlawful entry, disturbing the peace, and… Commander Brix 77 checked his notes. Littering. Littering. Apparently, our weapons fire damaged several satellites, and space debris fell into Earth's oceans. That constitutes littering according to local environmental laws. Krell-9 felt something inside his brain snap. A pizza delivery driver arrested our entire command staff for littering. He was very polite about it, General Thax Prime added helpfully. He read us our rights and everything. Apparently, we have the right to remain silent, though he suggested we probably should have thought of that before invading his planet. The holographic display showed the most humiliating moment in galactic military history. The bridge crew of the Eternal Dominion, including Admiral Kothrex himself, being led away in what appeared to be plastic zip-tie restraints by a human who couldn't have weighed more than 60 kilograms soaking wet. He even apologized for the inconvenience, Commander Brix 77 continued, his bioluminescence now cycling through colors that didn't exist in nature. Said they were still working out the proper protocols for interstellar law enforcement. And that, ladies, gentlemen, and assorted gaseous entities, was how the mighty Galactic Council's invasion force was defeated not by superior technology or strategic brilliance, but by the sheer, unhinged creativity of a species that had apparently watched too many action movies and said, "You know what? We could totally do that." The aftermath had been swift and humiliating. Earth's newly appointed Planetary Defense Coordinator, a former insurance adjuster named Susan Park, had transmitted a simple message to the remaining Council forces. Thank you for visiting Earth. We hope you enjoyed your stay. Please note that any future visits require advance notice and proper documentation. Have a nice day, and don't let the asteroid field hit you on the way out. The surviving ships had limped home with their collective tail between their legs, carrying news that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. Humanity was not just another primitive species to be catalogued and conquered. They were something far more dangerous. They were completely, utterly, magnificently insane. And now, as Krell-9 looked around the council chamber at his fellow representatives, he could see the same question in every eye, antenna, and photosynthetic appendage. What do you do when you've accidentally poked the single most unpredictable species in the galaxy? The answer to that question arrived 3 standard cycles later in the form of a small, battered spacecraft that somehow managed to slip past every security system the Council had ever devised. "Sir," Communications Officer Zara Beta's crystalline voice chimed through the chamber's speakers, "we have an unusual situation." Krell-9 rubbed his temples with 2 claws, while the other 2 drummed impatiently on the table. "Define unusual, officer, because after the Earth debacle, my definition of that word has expanded considerably. A human vessel has docked with our station, without permission, without detection, and—" She paused, static crackling through her voice modulator, "without following any known docking protocols." General Thax Prime's compound eyes rotated independently, a sure sign of extreme agitation. "Impossible. Our perimeter defenses could detect a stray photon traveling through hyperspace." "Apparently not, sir. The humans seem to have used what they call the front door approach." "Meaning?" "They flew directly at us, very slowly, while playing what I believe humans call smooth jazz on all frequencies. Our automated defense systems interpreted it as ambient space music." High Priestess Yanavel materialized completely, her ethereal form crackling with indignation. "They defeated our quantum detection grid with elevator music? Technically, it was saxophone-heavy instrumental versions of human pop songs, but yes." The chamber's main display activated, showing security footage of the human vessel's approach. It was even more ridiculous than their previous encounters. The ship appeared to be constructed from what looked like 3 different spacecraft welded together with obvious seams, painted in bright yellow with large black letters spelling out "taxi" on all sides. "A taxi," Krell-9 said flatly. "They invaded our most secure facility using a taxi." The footage showed the bizarre craft docking with their station using what appeared to be modified magnetic clamps, and a lot of hopeful thinking. A small figure in a bright orange jumpsuit emerged and walked directly to the nearest airlock. "The human is requesting an audience with the High Council," Officer Zara Beta reported. "He says he has a delivery." "A delivery?" Commander Brick's 77's bioluminescence shifted to confused purple. "What could these humans possibly want to deliver to us?" The answer walked into the chamber 5 minutes later, escorted by a squad of very nervous security guards who looked like they'd rather be facing a quantum supernova than one small human. Captain Jake Martinez stood barely 1.7 meters tall, wearing what appeared to be a modified flight suit covered in patches, stickers, and what looked like contact information for pizza restaurants. His dark hair was disheveled, his face bore a 3-day beard, and he carried a battered metal case under one arm. "Afternoon, folks," he said cheerfully, as if dropping by the seat of galactic government was something he did every Tuesday. "Hope I'm not interrupting anything important." "I brought snacks." The silence stretched like taffy in a black hole. Finally, Krell-9 found his voice. "You brought snacks?" "Yeah. Thought you might be hungry after that whole invasion thing. Long trip home and all." Jake set down the case and popped it open, revealing an assortment of wrapped items. "Got some sandwiches, coffee, couple energy drinks. The coffee's from this little place in Portland. They do this amazing dark roast that'll wake the dead." General Thax Prime leaned forward, his antennae twitching dangerously. "Human, you do realize you've just committed an act of war by entering Council space without authorization?" Jake looked genuinely surprised. "Oh, sorry about that. I filled out the forms on your website, but the submission page kept crashing. Figured I'd just pop by in person. More personal that way, you know?" "Our website?" Yanavel's voice carried a note of bewilderment. "Yeah, galacticcouncil.gov or whatever. Really nice design, by the way, though the user interface could use some work. Took me forever to find the Schedule a Meeting button. The council members exchanged glances that could have powered a small fusion reactor. They didn't have a website. They had never had a website. The very concept of making their contact information publicly available was antithetical to everything they stood for. Who, Krell-9 asked slowly, created this website? Oh, that was Tommy Chen back in IT. Real whiz kid. Built the whole thing in like 6 hours after you guys left. Figured if you were going to keep dropping by unannounced, we should probably have some way for you to make appointments. Professional courtesy and all that. Jake pulled out what appeared to be a primitive data pad and began reading. Let's see. I've got your complaint forms here, incident reports, and… He looked up brightly. Your bill. Our… what? Your bill. For damages. Susan over in Planetary Defense worked it all out. She used to do insurance, so she's real good with this stuff. He pulled out several sheets of paper covered in neat handwriting. Let's see here. Emotional trauma to civilian population, that's about $2 billion. Environmental cleanup for the space debris, another $3 billion. Then there's the cost of repairs to the International Space Station, replacement satellites, and… He flipped a page. Oh, and late fees. Late fees? Commander Brick's 77's bioluminescence had shifted to a color that didn't have a name in any known language. Yeah, standard 30 days net payment terms. It's been 42 days since the incident, so that's 12% annual interest compounded daily. Jake squinted at the paper. Comes out to about… carry the two. Wow, that's a big number. Like, really big. You might want to sit down. He turned the paper around so they could see it. The final total had so many zeros that it looked like a telephone number for a very large planet. This is ridiculous, General Thax Prime buzzed angrily. We are the Galactic Council. We don't pay reparations to primitive species. Jake's expression shifted slightly, and for just a moment, the council members caught a glimpse of something much sharper behind his casual demeanor. See? That's where things get interesting. Because according to galactic law, specifically the Treaty of Vorthak Prime, subsection 12, paragraph 47, any unprovoked military action against a non-council species constitutes an act of piracy. The chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of life support systems. And, according to that same treaty, Jake continued conversationally, the injured party has the right to seek compensation through any reasonable means. He smiled, and it wasn't entirely friendly. We've been very reasonable so far. High Priestess Yanavel's form flickered rapidly. Are you threatening us, human? Oh no, ma'am. Threatening would be unprofessional. Jake reached into his case again and pulled out another document. This is just a courtesy notification that Earth has officially filed a complaint with the Intergalactic Court of Justice, the Tribunal of Universal Rights, and the Better Business Bureau. The Better Business Bureau? Krell-9's voice cracked slightly. They handle consumer complaints. Technically, invasion falls under unethical business practices. They're very thorough. Already downgraded your rating to 1 star. He pulled out what appeared to be a primitive communication device and showed them a screen displaying what looked like a review website. The Galactic Council's entry was indeed showing 1 star out of 5, with comments like, terrible customer service, would not recommend, and showed up unannounced and tried to vaporize my cat. Very unprofessional. But that's not why I'm here, Jake continued, putting the device away. I'm actually here because Earth would like to extend an invitation. The mood in the chamber shifted from outraged confusion to wary suspicion. "What kind of invitation?" Krell-9 asked carefully. Jake's grin returned, brighter than before. "A party. Earth's having a celebration next month. First annual We Didn't Get Conquered Day. There'll be food, music, entertainment. We'd love to have you come as guests." "As guests?" "Yeah, honorary guests. Susan thought it would be good for diplomatic relations. Show there's no hard feelings and all that." He paused thoughtfully. "Though you might want to avoid the petting zoo. Some of the animals are still a little jumpy around alien technology." General Thax Prime's mandibles clicked nervously. "And if we decline this invitation?" "Oh, that's totally fine. Your choice entirely." Jake's tone remained perfectly pleasant. "Though I should mention that Earth's been getting a lot of attention lately. Apparently, word's gotten out about the whole invasion thing. We've had delegations from like 20 different species wanting to establish trade relations." He pulled out yet another document. "The Andromedan Collective wants to buy our Improvised Warfare Techniques Manual. The Stellar Federation is interested in licensing our Chaotic Defense Protocols. And the Merchant Guild of Tau Ceti is offering some seriously good rates for exclusive distribution rights to human military innovation." The council members began to look genuinely worried. The idea of human unpredictability being weaponized and spread throughout the galaxy was the stuff of nightmares. "Of course," Jake continued cheerfully. "Earth being new to all this intergalactic politics stuff, we figured we should probably ask our neighbors for advice first. You know, being the regional government and all." "Neighbors," Yanavel repeated faintly. "Yep, Susan's big on being neighborly. She brought cookies to every first contact meeting we've had this week." Jake looked around the chamber with apparent admiration. "Nice place you've got here, by the way. Very imposing. Bet it makes a real impression on species you're trying to intimidate." The word "trying" hung in the air like a toxic cloud. "What exactly," Krell-9 asked very carefully, "is Earth proposing?" Jake's expression became serious for the first time since entering the chamber. "Simple. We want to be friends. Real friends. Not the kind where you show up uninvited and try to blow up our stuff. We've got a lot to offer. Technology, resources, ideas, and apparently, we're pretty good at solving problems in ways nobody expects." He gestured to the holographic display, which still showed scenes from the invasion aftermath. "You came looking for another conquest. Instead, you found something new, something that doesn't fit in any of your categories or protocols or strategic manuals." Jake stepped closer to the council table, and despite his small stature and casual appearance, every being in the room suddenly felt very aware of his presence. "Here's the thing about humans," he said quietly. "We don't like bullies. And we really don't like it when someone threatens our home. But we're also pretty forgiving, assuming you're willing to learn from your mistakes." He straightened up, the moment of intensity passing. "So, what do you say? Want to be neighbors instead of enemies? Fair warning, though. We might borrow your lawnmower from time to time." The chamber erupted in a babble of alien languages, translated conversations, and what sounded like several small explosions from General Thax Prime's direction. After several minutes of chaos, Krell-9 managed to restore order. "Human Martinez," he said formally, "the Council needs time to consider your proposal." "Sure thing. Take all the time you need." Jake closed his case and started toward the exit. "Oh, and just so you know, Earth's putting together a little welcome package for new galactic neighbors. Nothing fancy, just some music, art, food samples, that kind of thing. He paused at the door. Fair warning, though, some of it might seem a little weird at first. We included instructions, but if you have questions, just give us a call. The customer service line is 24/7. And with that, he was gone, leaving behind only the lingering smell of fresh coffee and the dawning realization that the galaxy had just gotten a lot more complicated. 3 hours later, as emergency sessions convened across a dozen star systems and military analysts tried to figure out how a taxi had penetrated the most secure facility in Council space, a small package arrived at Krell-9's personal quarters. Inside, wrapped in colorful paper, was a container of Earth coffee, a handwritten note saying, "Thanks for listening, Jake," and a small device labeled Emergency Human Hotline. Krell-9 stared at the items for a long time. Then, very carefully, he made himself a cup of coffee. It was, he had to admit, pretty good. And that's how the Galactic Council learned the most important lesson in the history of interstellar relations. Sometimes the best way to handle the impossible is to make friends with it and see what happens.